A group of former Director Generals, or DGs, who worked in government departments yesterday, launched an association that will provide support to their peers to bring reform to public sector towards building a professional and capable developmental state. Recognizing challenges facing the state, a group of 27 former DGs came together in 2016 to strive to get the country back on a development path in line with its stated vision. Communication was also sent to the then president outlining concerns and offering to play a role in efforts to return ethics, professionalism and capacity to the public sector. Pam Yako is currently the head of Zenande Consulting Leadership. She previously worked as the DG in the Departments of Environment and Tourism, as well as the Department of Water Affairs and Forestry. Now with her, we've got Dipak Patel. He's a former DG in the Department of Transport. Good to have both of you. Thanks so much for being with us.
Good morning, Leanne, and good morning to your viewers.
Morning and morning to the viewers.
Thanks very much to both of you. Dipak, I'm going to start with you because I know that we've got some time constraints with you, and thanks so much for sort of pulling over on the side of the road to actually just chat to us. I'm going to aim some questions at you up front before I let you go. So, why is it necessary to launch an association of DGs, especially now that I suppose both of you are no longer in those positions?
Yes, Leanne, I think both Pam and myself, as well as now actually over 40 former Directors General, came into the public service in the first and second administrations, as well as the third, perhaps. And we all came in because we were committed to building a state past apartheid and into a democratic future which would deliver services to our people and improve their lives. However, as we all know, there were years when corruption and malfeasance crept in, and that is when 27 of us decided that we had to open our mouths, we had to be heard, and we penned at that point a memorandum which was quite hard-hitting and critical of the extent of corruption, malfeasance, and lack of professionalism that had settled in. Over the last 2 years or so, we have continued meeting, and yesterday we were lucky enough to be able to get all 40 or so of us together and launch the association. We called the Association of Former Directors General. We have been interacting with government, and although we're independent, we're here to make a constructive contribution, whether that's through mentorship advice or sharing our experience and our expertise. We believe that the conditions are now ripe to begin a process of reform and revival of professionalism and ethical conduct in the public service.
What is the actual system that is used to appoint a Director General? Again, and I ask this one to you, I'm just using the time while I can, Dipak, to ask you these questions. I mean, is it possible to have a DG that is not deployed? Otherwise, why is it not common to have DGs from other parties as well?
Well, Leanne, I don't think DGs are deployees. In the first and second administration, necessarily it had to be people who were anti-apartheid in broad speak. Since then, I think there might have been compromises in the way in which merit was applied in appointing Directors General. However, with the new reforms that are being considered and which are underway, there is a meritocratic approach that is being identified and implemented. And Directors General are generally contracted by the President after consideration by the Public Service Commission, as well as the Minister in the line in which the Director General is going to be appointed. We believe and have made specific submissions that appointments at especially Director General level should have two qualities. One is there must be a sufficient tenure for continuity, and secondly, there must be a professionalization based on merit for appointments of Directors General. Maybe Pam wants to also add to this.
Please, Pam, if you don't mind, add to this as well.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think Dipak has covered it, and there is a need for people to make themselves available and apply for positions. What is interesting now, and I think it's a new development in the new with the new administration, is called Project Nukela, that you can't become a director general or a senior manager in the public service without going through a course through the School of Government that will make sure that you actually get the right orientation to start with and the capability in addition to your qualifications. I think the beginnings of professionalizing the public service is there, but I still think there is a long way to go.
Yeah, there certainly is. I mean, we have just this morning gotten wind, and I know that you obviously haven't had a chance, I'm sure, as everybody is, trawling through 114 pages of the Special Investigating Unit's report now into what happened with Digital Vibes in the Department of Health. But the reality is the involvement of DGs in all of this, and I do point at specifically in this particular as to what we've read, is Dr. Anban Pillay. And this is a big thing, because one would then ask in terms of, I mean, the amount of scathing things that are being said about Dr. Anban Pillay in this, who is, of course, the Deputy Director General within the department. He still has a job, and he's being very, very much so scrutinized. The DG was suspended, however. Let's talk about this, because this is not an isolated incident. We see so many of these cases where DGs are involved in these corrupt activities. So, you know, what is your comment to this, Dipak? I mean, is it pressure, or is it just the wrong people doing the wrong job?
No, I think we've come out of a period where malfeasance had in fact become rife, where directors general as well as senior public servants were expected to toe the line and do the wrong things on the behest of political principles. We strongly believe, as a group of 40 plus former directors general, that there's adequate provision in both the Constitution as well as in the law for directors general and officials to stand up and say no. We do understand that there might have been a set of conditions that prevailed previously where officials felt either threatened or fearful, and in the worst cases, officials got involved in the corruption. We are very clear. A new code of ethics needs to be promulgated, and a new ethos of ethical and professional behavior needs to be ushered in. The law must take its course, and people who engage in this level of corruption, malfeasance, maladministration must face the full might of the law. And we hope that with the release of this Digital Vibes report now by the President, what is being shown is that there's an era of transparency and no place to hide for people who do the wrong things, get caught, and they must face the full might of the law.
Getting caught, that's the word, because I would love to know that with the group of DGs that you're working with, how many of these DGs did the same thing, succumbed to the pressure, did it, but got away with it, and didn't stand up and actually follow the rule of law and say, no, I will not do this, but instead just ignored the fact that they were doing things illegally and made it happen. Let that be your question, then I know you have to go.
Yes, thank you, Leanne, and then I do have to go. We deliberated long and hard on this question, and the 40 or so of us, I think there's a very, very good track record among the 40. In answering your question, how do we keep out of this organization misdemeanor away? We've got a code of conduct. There's not automatic membership. In fact, all 40 or so of us, including those who launched, have signed application forms for membership. There are questions which cause us to certify that there were no misdemeanors in our time and in our period in office. And we will have an ethics committee to ensure that anyone who might have engaged in either maladministration or malfeasance is kept out of our organization. We are a voluntary association offering to help government with capacity building and to clean up. And we must ensure, of course, that our own organization and our own house is in order. And we have a commitment to ensuring that our fellow colleagues who might have done something wrong are kept out of our voluntary association.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna let you go. I'll continue this conversation with Pam. Thank you so much. Thanks very, very much for your time. Dipak Patel is a former DG in the Department of Transport, heading off. But I've still got Pam. I'll talk to you, Pam, because this is where I really want to pick your brain, because I feel like that question wasn't answered well enough there by Dipak in terms of how many people, the DGs that you have or know, succumbed to this corruption, because it seems like the pressure is there, and the reality is that they succumb to this pressure and they do what they are told. As a DG in this department, whether or not you believe that this is wrong or not, you go ahead and follow orders. Let's talk to that. I mean, do you have in your midst DGs that have done that?
Okay. So I think it's I'm gonna answer the question in three parts. Okay. The first part pertains to our organization. Okay. What we've done, which is what Dipak had covered, is that we had developed a code of conduct and an application form that people have to answer certain questions, and we're not an investigative body. So if someone did someone and it was not in the public domain, there might be a chance that there would be such an individual. But we think we like to believe and that our process is rigorous enough that even those that might have had disciplinary cases, we go through those and see what went on. And what were the charges and how did that come about?
But Pam,
so hopefully through that.
If I may, sorry I'm interrupting you because I know that our time is not too much, but I mean, how do these people, the people that you talk about that may have charges or may have been involved in this kind of activity, mentor other people? Because, I mean, this is just you never break the cycle. And I understand what you're trying to achieve, but the reality is, if you have got, and there is no other word to call them, criminals in your midst that are mentoring other people to follow in the footsteps where they never ever conformed to the law in the first place, why would you have them in your law? Surely there should be some vetting process.
Yes. Yeah. I think let's distinguish between two things here. That there might be everybody and anybody. If you look at it in terms of what they do and the decisions that you might have to make as an accounting officer, sometimes there's an error of judgment. Because I think we need to distinguish between an error of judgment and corruption or being deliberate in your actions. And I think that's what disciplinary processes would normally try to establish, because not everybody that has committed or made a mistake might have done this with malice or with intention. Yeah. And that distinguished with someone who does that in order to have personal gain and has been part of a bigger plot that's related to this capture of the state. I think those are two distinctions that one would like to make. Yeah. But coming to
I'm not sure it's a good, Pam, I'm not sure that's a good enough reason. I mean, an error in judgment, whereas you know you're breaking the law, whereas you know that what you're doing is unlawful, I'm not sure that you can actually draw a line between these two things. I mean, the reality is, I know if I'm doing something wrong, and if I feel that I am doing something wrong, even though it is an instruction, I refuse to do it and walk away. And that should be the way that DGs handle things, not that they, that this was just something that slipped by or that it was a bad judgment. I'm not sure that's an acceptable explanation, Pam.
Okay, I think it might sound technical. I think there is. Let me give you an example. There's a budget of 50,000 rand, okay, and so I sign off on something that is 51,000 rand. In terms of the code of conduct, in terms of the rules, I have gone beyond the rules of the public service, okay. Because I've even though the money went into the state and was used for the right reasons, but still I've made a mistake. I should have checked that the budget is 50,000 and I signed up for something that was 51,000. But the money was not lost to the state. But I've still have done something wrong. Whereas if I've signed 51,000 for work that has not been done for the state and the state has not benefited, and I knowingly did that, and that's the difference in terms of making a mistake in an error of judgment. I don't know if that example clarifies it.
It's hard to, but I don't want to waste too much time dealing on it. It's just one of those things where I feel it's clear cut, but obviously things are not that way, and that is worrying. That's very, very worrying, because it just appears that, you know, in South Africa you hardly hear of a DG actually breaking ranks with ministers and reporting wrong orders or wrongdoings. It's hidden and they follow orders, and that is worrying.
I mean, I think the fact that it's not in the public domain doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I know of directors general that have done that, that have stood their ground, sometimes to their detriment, and just refused to make an appointment of someone who doesn't have the qualification or do anything that is against the law, or even in some instances and say, give it to me in writing. And those things don't get reported, but they do happen, I can assure you that.
Yeah, I suppose, but it's so hard to understand that. I mean, let's just talk recently. National Department of Education DG suspended. Last week, the National Health Department announced that its new DG has also been suspended for the Digital Vibe saga, which we've mentioned, and now we're seeing more scathing reports. We're seeing the actual report coming out in Digital Vibes, and it's mind-boggling what gets done. Then the Gauteng Department of Health DG keeping his position despite the 431 million rand school decontamination controversy. It is hard, because this is the reality that we live with, is this wasteful expenditure, and it is a crime. Who takes responsibility then?
I think Dipak has made this point. I think when we talk about taking responsibility, I think the DG concerned or the accounting officer concerned, because in some instances it is a head of department, not a DG. They must take responsibility. Action must be taken, and they must go through a process which is also prescribed. And they must have. And where there's criminality, the full might of the law must take its course. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think we shouldn't put the baby with the bathwater at the same time, and say that there is not anybody in the public service that is able to hold a high ethical standard, who make sure that they act with integrity and there's honesty in the system, because I think we'll be making a mistake if we do that.
All right, Pam, I have to end it, unfortunately, but I know we'll have more conversations. It's needed. Pam Yako, head of Zenande Consulting Leadership, previously working as the DG of Environment and Tourism. I won't go into it. I'm sure you've heard the conversation, but we got to quickly rush and say goodbye to SABC 2 viewers.
As I bite my tongue.
Yeah.
Goodbye.